Whenever you turn on the news, it feels like the media is collectively losing its mind over Donald Trump, treating his presidency like some sudden freak alien invasion that dropped out of nowhere to ruin a perfectly good country. But let's take a step back from the hysterical talking heads and look at the bigger picture. Because honestly, you have to laugh at how shocked everyone pretends to be. Trump is not an anomaly. He is the physical, visible symptom of a long-hidden illness within the American political system. He didn't start drone bombing. He didn't start regime change, especially for Israel. He didn't start receiving massive piles of money from special interest groups. And he definitely didn't start screwing over regular Americans on basic needs like healthcare, education, housing, and government surveillance. These exact policies were quietly carried out under previous presidents for decades. But back then, no one complained because they saw it as normal. Now, the sickness has finally shown its ugly head. The political establishment just hates him because he is not a subtle, polite authoritarian like the previous presidents. He is a loud-mouthed authoritarian who says the quiet parts out loud. But what if the polite leaders we used to love were secretly doing things behind closed doors that would absolutely turn your stomach? If you think American foreign policy used to be about spreading democracy and sunshine before Trump showed up, the history books have a pretty hilarious reality check for you. Long before Trump ever stepped foot in the Oval Office, previous administrations were quietly running the world like a real-life mafia movie, deciding which foreign governments got to stay and which ones had to go. Take a look back at the secret audio tapes from the 1970s, where President Richard Nixon was caught casually planning to meddle in other countries' business just for their resources, bluntly stating, "We are going to intervene. I want it done. The purpose is to save the oil, period." There was no poetic speech about human rights there, just a cold, hard focus on global control. And if you think that dark attitude stayed in the past, think again. Even Barack Obama, who built his entire brand on hope and change, reportedly looked at his growing drone warfare program and joked to his aides, "Turns out I'm really good at killing people. Didn't know that was going to be a strong suit of mine." It turns out the system has always been ruthless, but while the old leaders kept their dirty work hidden behind smooth speeches, Trump just brought the cruelty out into the light. But as bad as it looks when we mess with other countries, the way the system treats its own citizens back home is where things get truly personal. It is incredibly easy to look at the skyrocketing costs of rent, the soul-crushing weight of student loans, and a healthcare system that treats your life savings like an ATM, and assume Donald Trump invented this misery. But the hard truth is that the Washington establishment has been quietly giving regular Americans the short end of the stick for decades, except they always did it with a polite smile, polished hair, and a warm handshake. Back in the 1990s, when big money and corporate donors were completely taking over Washington, President Bill Clinton perfectly captured the transactional nature of the modern White House when he reportedly joked to a close political ally about fundraising, saying, "We're all just renting out the bedrooms here." Decades before him, President Lyndon B. Johnson dropped the polite, sophisticated act behind closed doors to explain how political control actually worked, famously boasting, "If you can tuck a man's pecker in your pocket, you've got him." The elites in Washington don't actually hate Trump because he is a ruthless politician. They hate him because he threw away their precious rulebook of polite manners and exposed their quiet, corporate corruption to the entire world. Trump proved that the game is completely rigged, but if you think a loudmouthed billionaire disrupting the status quo is the worst thing that could happen to America, you are completely missing the real danger waiting just around the corner. At the end of the day, Donald Trump didn't actually create a single piece of the dark, corrupt machinery running Washington. He just walked into the control room, turned on all the bright fluorescent lights, and started pressing the buttons out in the open for everyone to see. We have spent years exhausting ourselves laughing at his wild social media posts and fighting over his loud behavior. But while we were entirely distracted by the constant reality TV circus, the underlying gears of the system never stopped turning. The terrifying reality is that it's what comes after Trump that should be feared, because it could be the inevitable death of the republic, civil liberties and rights, and maybe even the full rise of the authoritarian state. Imagine a future leader who looks at everything Trump exposed, but instead of being loud, chaotic, and disorganized, they are deeply competent, incredibly quiet, and ruthlessly disciplined at using those exact same broken tools to completely lock down power for good. If we don't wake up and realize that the entire foundation has been rotting since long before 2016, the next person to step into the White House won't just break the rules, they will quietly rewrite them forever, and by the time we finally notice, there won't be a single thing left we can do to stop them.